Holy shit. What a round of football. Week 1 of the AFL final series for the 2023 season was huge, but then week 2? Man, way to come out and put on a show. Join me today as we unpack the 2 games that went down in that semi-final and discuss the 2 eliminations before we lock in our tips ahead of this weekend's preliminary finals, which both games present huge opportunities to not only the clubs that are involved, but to us as supporters getting to watch these great hitouts. Sit back, relax, let's get this one underway. Now, before we get started, I think it's prudent to address the elephant in the room. All over social media right now, it has been announced that Adem Yze, ex-Melbourne player, has been selected as Richmond's senior coach for the 2024 season and beyond. And I'm so fucking hyped for that. I personally wanted Chris Newman as my choice. I thought, coming home to the club that you used to captain as the new coach would have been a great homecoming for him, but Adem Yze comes from the same cloth that Hardwick was cut from. He did his apprenticeship underneath Alistair Clarkson, just like Hardwick did. He then played an integral role in Hawthorn's premiership success throughout those years where they built their dynasty. He then shifted to Melbourne, and in his first year at Melbourne as midfield coach, he helped them win a premiership. This is a guy who has been touted by Clarkson, by Brereton, by many others in the game as one of the most tactically sound minds in the competition. And I'm so keen to see what he does with Richmond and the boys that he is given at his disposal. That sounded a bit wrong, I know, but what I'm trying to say is I'm just keen to have a new perspective, new gameplay style, just a new outlook for the club moving forward. It's going to be great. But now that we've got that out of the way, it's time to discuss week 2. Holy shit, we had 2 absolute blockbuster games, the first of which went down at the MCG between Melbourne and Carlton. And Melbourne lost the unlosable game. 2 years in a row, they have been eliminated back to back. And this is a club who, for the first time since the year 2000, has done this. This is huge. This is a club that won a premiership a couple of years ago. Since winning that premiership, they have been bounced out of back-to-back finals in straight sets. And they've only got themselves to blame. This game was incredibly lackluster from Melbourne in the way of missed opportunities kicking goals, very undisciplined acts from players, especially Kozzy Pickett. Kozzy Pickett played a great game, don't get me wrong. He was pivotal in keeping Melbourne in the game throughout the second half, but in the early moments of the game, he reverses a free kick by doing something incredibly stupid against Mitch McGovern. He then makes head-high contact with another player later on, gives away a free kick, elects to hip and shoulder Patrick Cripps, cops him on the chin. He's been banned for a week for that hit. I thought it deserved more because he's a repeat offender, but beggars can't be choosers. And, just things like that on top of indecision moving the ball forward and inaccuracy in front of goal. It really just weighed against Melbourne when you've got a Carlton outfit that play their first final since 2013, 2 weeks ago. They win that. They bring all this momentum into this game with them, and this is why I tipped Carlton to win. This momentum wave that they are riding is almost unstoppable. There are certain teams in the AFL that once they get momentum behind them and they get the crowd behind them, they are incredibly hard to stop. Richmond have had their time in the light in that retrospect. Collingwood is one of those teams. Carlton is now proving to be one of those teams. I still feel Carlton are more cohesive up forward without Harry Mackay in the mix. That is a personal opinion. It is now an opinion that a lot of people are now bringing up in the media as well. I'd love to know your thoughts. If you're a Carlton fan and you're watching this video, let me know in the comments down below how you feel about Carlton with Harry Mackay in the team and without Harry Mackay in the team. I'd love to know your thoughts. But ultimately, Carlton, in a very close game, snatch a win from the jaws of defeat. And as much as I want to hate them I've got to get behind them. You've got to appreciate the players digging deep and the supporters being as passionate as they are. I mean, you know, cutting to the crowd and you see them getting abusive to umpires and stuff. I mean, I think we all know that all supporter bases do that, but they're just they're choosing the wrong times to cut to the crowd with Carlton games. But Melbourne eliminated. I didn't think they'd make it to the prelims, to be fair. I did say after last week, heading into this round of football, that whether it was Carlton or Sydney who won that game, they were going to beat Melbourne the following week, and that was proven. Melbourne using the excuse that everything surrounding Angus Brayshaw and his concussion and everything leading up to Brayden Maynard going to the tribunal and everything else was too big of a distraction for the players to get over. Man the fuck up, is all I've got to say. Players get concussed all the time. Players are sent to tribunals all the time. To use Angus Brayshaw's injury as not only a cop-out, but a scapegoat for playing ill-disciplined, inaccurate football is a load of bullshit. That is all I'm going to say about Melbourne. But congratulations to the Baggers who get through to a prelim this weekend. The second game of football was just as interesting, but on a different kind of scope, because we had Port Adelaide hosting GWS, and I was convinced, even though Port Adelaide is a fortress when it comes to, you know, having to go to Adelaide Oval and take them on, very similarly with Adelaide, but I just felt GWS had set themselves up this year with all their wins that they've had on the road and all the momentum they've been building, that they were going to roll through Adelaide and the Orange Tsunami was going to wash them away. And this was a game that was an arm wrestle in the beginning. GWS got that early jump. Port Adelaide managed to arm wrestle it back. GWS would then get in front. Port Adelaide would then wrestle it back. But then GWS just went to another gear. A gear that we are used to seeing Port Adelaide go to and continue on. But they just put the foot down. And that tsunami just didn't roll through. It fucking crashed through. And this is a team, again, just like Carlton, riding the wave of momentum, bringing in all of that positive air about them, bringing in a lot of confidence that they have now discovered within themselves. Players like Josh Kelly, Tom Green, Toby Green, great players, but they have elevated their games to the next level during this final series, and it's going to be on the back of these players that they're going to win a grand final if they ever get the opportunity to do so. So to be seeing the GWS Giants firing as well as they are, you can almost start taking them out of the equation of failed AFL attempts to set up teams elsewhere, because we've always had the conversation about Gold Coast and GWS not having any success, especially the Gold Coast not playing any finals football. This is the fourth prelim that GWS have made it to. If they get through this week, it'll be the second grand final that they have played in 5 odd years. And even though they got brutally demoralised by Richmond in the 2019 grand final, thank you very much, we still need to acknowledge the fact that they were still undermanned in that game. They came into that game with injuries with certain players that they chose to play. So GWS getting the chance to reset and possibly hit a grand final day appearance with a fully fit team is a very scary thought. But again, another correct tip. I have tipped at 100% success rate for the final series. If only I could have done that during the home and away season, I would have been so fucking stoked. So, Melbourne out in straight sets, Port Adelaide out in straight sets. A question was posed to me by a very close friend of mine that we need to try and work out, when was the last time that 2 top 4 teams were bounced out in back-to-back weeks and didn't make a prelim final at all? I've gone back to as far back as 2015, and I haven't found any yet. So if anybody who has the AFL know-how or wants to do a little bit of digging, let me know in the comments down below if you find out when was the last time 2 of the top 4 were bounced out before the prelims. It's very rarely seen. There's sometimes where one team has been bounced out of the top 4, but we normally still have a mix of at least 3 of the top 4 left coming to this point of the final series. And As destroying as it is for Port Adelaide fans and Melbourne fans to be bounced out, Carlton and GWS now have opportunities to put themselves in the history books, and it's very exciting to really think about that, especially when you look at the two games that present themselves to us this coming weekend. We're being given a fucking feast of football, and I cannot wait to sink my teeth into it. I'm getting so excited, I fucking just got a frog in my throat. I can ribbit. Now, the upshot to getting this video out later in the week than I had anticipated is I get to see the teams that have been announced for this weekend, and we can make a more informed decision, and it gives us a chance to have a deeper discussion. So the first game kicks off. I don't know when I'm going to be uploading this, either Thursday night or Friday morning. But at any rate, Friday night, first game of football, Collingwood hosting GWS at the MCG, expected to be 90,000 plus. We have had some huge fucking crowds turning out for this final series. It has been insane. But this game right here poses, I feel, at this point in time, a contender for Game of the Year. We know GWS have the chocolates on Collingwood when it comes to prelim games that they've played against each other. The last time GWS played Collingwood in a prelim, it was GWS going through to the 2019 Grand Final against Richmond, and that was a very close game of football that could have been won by any team in the dying moments. All the talk, however, this week is Nick Daicos, Brownlow favourite, back in the mix for Collingwood after missing 7 weeks of football. I still feel he might be a little bit underdone, and I feel if GWS want to, within the boundaries of AFL ruling, push that injury to the limit by a little bit of niggling around the ball, around the contest, maybe laying a tackle a little bit harder than they should, I think they're going to expose that. And my personal take on that is, if as long as it's in the realm of football and it's not a dirty, cheap shot behind the play, if a player is named, they're fit to play. If they're playing with an injury, then that is on the onus of the club naming them and the player, being available for selection. So, as much as you don't want to see players get targeted and maybe a little bit more attention put into them, if you've got a grand final opportunity right in front of you, you're going to take it, no matter what you have to do. With Nick Daicos coming in for Collingwood, we have Jack Ginnivan named as an out as the sub. I think, however, he will be named as the sub again for this game. And Taylor Adams with the hamstring injury or the calf injury. It was one of the two. He sustained it during training. It was mentioned earlier in the week that he would be the one coming out for Daicos. GWS go unchanged. Xavier O'Halloran has, I was going to say O'Hallahan, but it's O'Halloran. He has been named as an out, but will be named, obviously, again as the sub for this game. As much as I want to back Collingwood here, I feel there's a lot that plays into the favour of GWS here. Collingwood have home ground advantage. They have the advantage of having majority of that 90,000 plus as Collingwood fans droning out the stadium with their Collingwood, getting the death rattle going. That's going to shake any club to its core. But GWS, since even before the final series, has come through this year winning at 11 or 12 different grounds, the most that any team has won throughout the entire year, has no trouble going on the road, has no trouble recovering from short recovery times between games, rides this momentum from the home and away season right through to the finals, and at this point in time, even though Collingwood is still undoubtedly probably the best team out of the four left, GWS is riding one of the biggest momentum waves. They've got more momentum behind them than Collingwood. We've got this team, they've had to play more games, they've had to get there the hard way, but these gutsy wins that they're picking up is continuing to build that confidence for them, especially going down to Port Adelaide and winning at a ground that is notoriously hard to win at for away teams. They're going to take every bit of confidence into this game at the MCG. This is why I'm tempted to tip GWS, and I'm leading towards that fact. I think Collingwood has more to lose here. GWS are really at a point where if they lose here, they can still hang their hats on a high, because this is a team, yet again, touted as a potential bottom four team after losing Taranto, Hopper, Bruin, Hill. and they come through as one of the lower teams in the 8, but at the moment are situated as one of the best in the comp overall because of the momentum they have built and the style of game that they're playing. I think they have answers for everyone around the ground. I think Nick Daicos coming back in definitely elevates Collingwood, but we don't know whether he is 100% fit or not. 7 weeks away from football, coming back from a broken leg, it's a huge thing to overcome, and there could be a lot of ring rust here. I'm still expecting GWS to put a lot of work into Daicos. I personally don't think he should be played on ball to start with. They should play him off a halfback flank, off of a wing, let him warm up, then throw him into the middle. You don't want to have a player like Kieran Briggs, the ruckman for GWS, landing down on top of you when you're coming fresh back from an injury, and you know you've got kilos upon kilos advantage on top of this kid. They're going to want to get their hands on Daicos early in the contest. If they start him outside of the contest, allow him to ease his way back in. I think that's the best way for Collingwood to use Nick Daicos. But I think, and I've been feeling this, as much as I want Collingwood to win, I've been riding the Collingwood Express all final series. I think GWS are going to cause an upset on Friday night. Then we have Brisbane hosting Carlton at the Gabba. Unfortunately, when it came to Melbourne versus Carlton, I was in a similar position the week prior with Carlton taking on Sydney heading into Melbourne. I had the thought process watching the Carlton-Sydney game that, regardless of who won that game, they were going to beat Melbourne the following week. Similar process I had this past week. Regardless of who won out of Carlton and Melbourne, they were going to run into a brick wall at the Gabba. Brisbane have not lost a game at the Gabba all year, and I am not expecting them to drop the prelim game. I am locking them in for a grand final appearance, which means, going off of my tips, I'm tipping a non-Victorian grand final, which I know the AFL probably deep down secretly want Collingwood versus Carlton, and I think a lot of Victorians would want that. But GWS versus Brisbane opens up the scope for a team to win their first premiership versus a team that has a list worthy of a premiership but has fallen short of the mark for the last few years. And I feel that makes for a good clash, but obviously Collingwood are still well within contention here. It's just an opinion of mine. I'm not saying GWS are guaranteed to win. Collingwood will probably rock up now that I've tipped GWS and spoke about them highly and absolutely dick-roll them. Similar here. I firmly believe Brisbane do not lose at the Gabba, but this could be the one game that they do lose. Do Brisbane go all the way undefeated at their home ground and then lose the unlosable and get bounced out in a prelim? That would be fucking heartbreaking. But turning our attention to the team lineups, Darcy Gardner comes in for Brisbane with Jack Payne doing an ankle injury. That is a huge out for Brisbane, might I add. And Jared Lyons as the sub is listed as out. I'm assuming Jared Lyons would be named as the sub for that game. For Carlton, we have 4 players dropped and we have 3 big ins. We have Harry Mackay, Jack Martin and Jordan Boyd all in for Carlton. And on the out, we have Brody Kemp, David Cunningham, Matthew Kennedy, and Matthew Owies all omitted. Owies is probably the big one because even though he had a quiet game last week, I feel he's been a live wire for Carlton all year. So seeing him dropped came as a shock. I'm tipping it's going to be either Owies or Kennedy named as the sub for this game. Harry Mackay, I posed the question earlier. Does him coming back into the team bolster Carlton or lessen them? I don't know, because we still have issues with Mackay and Curnow leading into each other's lanes, crashing the same packs, and it's got to be a different game plan if Carlton are to win this game. We have Jack Martin coming back in after his hit on Nick Blakey 2 weeks ago, saw him suspended for the week, and Jordan Boyd comes in to bolster their defence a little bit. It's interesting because we've got 2 forward lines that are going to be tall. We've got Mackay and Curnow at one end. We've got Danaher and Hipwood up the other. We've got very capable small forwards. We've got Charlie Cameron. We've got the likes of Lincoln McCarthy up one end. We've got Jack Martin. We've got Jesse Motlop up the other end. Midfield-wise, it's going to be a great clash. Ruck-wise, again, similarly, they don't have, like, Showtime groundbreaking ruckmen, but they've got ruckmen that dig deep. It's going to be a game of intercept, and both teams do it well. You know, Harris Andrews has built an incredible defence with Brisbane based on that intercept game. Jacob Wiedering has done the same thing for Carlton. So, on paper, they're evenly matched. I don't know, though. It's just Brisbane have an air about them when they're playing at the Gabba that is just so hard to squash, especially when they kick a couple of goals in succession and the crowd starts getting up and about and the music is playing after every goal. People are fucking singing Country Roads and fucking Frozen and everything else. There's a real belief about Brisbane, and I say it every time I talk about this team. When you look at their list, they have one of the best lists in the competition. They've got the most potent forward line, in my opinion, in the comp. They have got one of the best midfields in the comp. If they drop this game and do not make the grand final, I don't see where they improve to win a grand final. This is the team. This is the team they win a premiership with. If they can't fucking beat Carlton and get into the grand final this week, I'll be very fucking surprised. But, as I said, my tip for this game is going to be Brisbane defeating Carlton, which is going to be upsetting for Carlton fans because they've got so far and they've fallen short. It's going to be a little bit vindicating for me because inside I feel a little bit happy about that because I'm still a little bit spiteful about some shit that happened to me a couple of seasons ago. But at the end of the day, we're presented this weekend with two fucking ripping games of football, and with how each team is playing currently, we cannot be disappointed with whoever makes the grand final, even if we have grudges against teams. Whether it be Collingwood Carlton, whether it be GWS Brisbane, whether it be Collingwood Brisbane, whether it be GWS Carlton, we are going to be given one hell of a grand final because we don't only have the two best teams in the comp currently, which is Brisbane and Collingwood. We have two of the most in-form teams in the competition in GWS and Carlton. We're spoiled for fucking pleasure this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. We're spoiled for choices. All we've got to do, even as neutral supporters, is sit back and take the weekend in. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I've tipped GWS, I've tipped Brisbane. If I'm wrong, so be it. I'm just looking forward to a great fucking weekend of football. Thank you guys for joining me for another video. Do hope you guys... Oh, wait. One more thing. Before we leave, I put out a call to the two players in the competition for the tipping this year that tied for first place. It was Macca0303 and it was Team Wiggles, asking whether they would like to split the prize or whether they would like to face off in a grand final face-off. While I haven't heard from Team Wiggles yet, Macca0303 came through in the comments and turned around and said to me that he would like to gift the first place prize to Team Wiggles. I think that is incredibly humble of you. If Team Wiggles is happy to accept that, I am happy to make that happen. I'm just glad that we have people within this community that we have built that are so humble and genuine, like this act here. So Macca0303, regardless of whether you want to take the prize home or not, you did finish tied for first overall, so still congratulations to you. And he's already confirmed he's going to be back and bigger for next season, so that is an even better thing. So once again, just to recap before we leave, congratulations once more to Team Wiggles and Macca0303 for taking down Zira's tipping competition for 2023, which is going to be better place next year. Keep your eyes peeled for that. But now we can do the outro. Thank you for joining me for today's video. Do hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do me a favor and hit that like button down below because it does go a long way to helping myself out. Be sure to hit that subscribe button as well. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend if they are still in. If not, just fucking enjoy. As I said, take it all in. Let's have a good weekend of footy. I'm hopeful for two cracking games. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.